In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create these nice data labels, which are customized data labels, but you can see here what they are. They are basically in the center here and comparing the value of this with that one here. This is number 18 and this is 9. You can see here it has a decline of 9 points. Here 3 points, and here we have an increase, or else here we have an equal. So let's start to look how we can create these custom data labels, compare the values, and put in a FontAwesome icon as well. So let's start to look at how to create a custom data labels that shows the data value differences in Chart.js. So for this, what we need is we need to get our boiler template, which you can find on chartjs3.com, getting started, this specific link, which you can find as well in the description box. Once you're on here, copy this chunk of code. If you want to understand what this code does, make sure you watch this video here that explains it all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this boiler template in here, cut this out, and oh sorry, I need to put that title in here. Save, refresh. There we are. What I want to do now is I want to maximize the size, so 80% on this. Save, refresh. There we are. Next, I want a second data set. So what I'm going to do is quite simple. I'm just going to copy this data set here, comma this, and I'll just say this will be black sales because it will have the black bar. So once we have this, let's delete all of that. There we are. And then this here, I'll just make this a fixed value of 9 consistent. Alright, so there we are. And this one will be just the red sales. Save, refresh. Now we have these differences, and this will become important later on. What I do want to have is what we call here grays, because I want to put the data labels here on top. But of course, the data label should be within the chart area. So I'm going to put a grays here, or basically space between the bar and the very top of the Y scale. So I'm going to say here, and you say a grays of 1. Save, refresh. Now you can see here we have added some space between here. Alright, so now we're ready to make our plugin. So I'm going to say comma here, say plugins, and then bracket, and then we can say here maybe custom data labels. Copy this. Then I'll say here slash this plugin block, and alright, we don't have to do that one, but then we say here constant this equals the ID of that. And then when do we want to draw this? Well, I want to draw this, yes, we could be after the dataset or before the dataset, doesn't really matter so much. I'll say here let's do here, I guess, after the data sets draw, and then we can say here chart arcs and plugin options. Then what I want to do is an object destructuring. If you want to understand object destructuring, I'm going to recommend you in the description box there's a video on understanding charts and object destructuring. Very important, because that's basically what I'm doing here in object destructuring. So here I want to say CTX. What I need more is I want the data, I want the chart area, and I have a video about that as well in the description box. You can find as well understanding the chart area for Chartjs. Very important to understand as well. Let's say top, bottom, left, right, width, and height. And I won't be using all of them, but just in case, if necessary. And maybe we don't use them at all, I think. But anyway, just having them there is useful. Next, I want to have the scales X and Y. Now I have this, and I'm going to say ctx.save to save all variables above. And then we can start here with the first item. So I'm going to make a, what we would say here, basically a not really dry method. And dry, I mean do not repeat yourself. However, for now, I'll accept this, and we can always refactor it maybe in the near future or as a video, but you could basically do that as well. Anyway, what I want to, before I even get ahead of myself, is well, what we need here is, because I want to use the icons, so I want to use the FontAwesome here. And I'm going to use FontAwesome 4.7, and you can use any FontAwesome you want, but I know that this one tends to work the best with the canvas, so I'm going to use this one here. So And the reason why I'm going to do this later on, I want to use the icons and put them in the data labels as well. Anyway, so we have that prepared, so we don't have to worry about that now. So now what I want to do here is, well, let's start with the first one. What I want to do is I want to draw the text, or more specifically, I want to put the text in here just above. So what we can do here is the following. I'm going to say here, let's say a ctx dot, and then we can say here font, and the font will be bold, 12 pixels, and we say here sans serif. And the reason why sans serif is because this font size is a default, together with the 12 pixels is the default settings in Chart.js. So I just want to have the same default text. So then what we're going to do is we're going to say here, well, maybe we can give it a font color. So you say font fill style equals black. That's nice. Next, what I want to do here is to add up the text here. So we're going to say ctx.fill text. And in here, basically, I need to have text, and I need the x coordinates, and I need the y coordinates. So for now, I just leave it like this. I'll say here 10 and 10. Save this, and if you refresh, you will see here now we get the text. This is basically the text that we have here. If I put 1, 2, 3, there we are. That shows it. But of course, I want it in here. So how do we do this? Well, we need to have the right coordinates for this. So the right coordinates is basically the following here. That's why we have the scales here. I'm going to say here x, because this is the x coordinate. So say x, and then we're going to say here get pixel for value. And basically what I'm going to do is here, I want to get index on the y of on the x scale, index 0. That's this one here, Monday basically. And so I'm going to say is 0 on the x scale and convert it into a pixel positioning. If I save this now, refresh, you can see here now it starts exactly here. It's close to the center, but it's like text aligned to the left side, so everything at the left will be skipped and it moves to the right, or basically it starts writing at this point here, which is exactly the center. So if I change this to ctx.text align, and we say this is center now, you will see that the fonts or the text is now in the center. Alright, this works. What I want to do now, of course, is I want to match this here down. But what I want to do as well is if I refresh, you can see it doesn't move. Well, the bar has this animation effect. So what I want to use is the same animation effect. So this dataset label will go up and down. And that is in here. What we're going to do here is basically the following. We're going to use a command called chart. Then say get dataset meta, and then within here we're going to say the index number of the dataset. Let's say now index 0. And this doesn't matter so much because they're basically identical. And then I'm going to say here data dot, and then we have here the index number again. So we're going to say here index number, and then we say a dot y to get the y coordinates. If I save this, refresh, you can see here it works, but we're still a bit on it. And the reason why is we need to push it a little bit up because it will match exactly with this. Let me just hide the tooltip because it is distracting us. So let's do comma here, plugins, tooltip, say enable, and we say here false. Save, refresh. Alright, so as you can see here, exactly in the center. So let's push this up a little bit. So what we could do here, maybe just to make it easy, is on the Y, we're going to deduct that with 10 pixels because then it moves up. So if I refresh, there we are. I guess now we get the first item. So what I want to do, of course, is I want to duplicate this for all of them. So what we're going to do now is, well, what we could do here is basically build a array. But here's the thing with the array. If I'm going to loop this, and this is all based on index 0, dataset 0, we will have a problem here at Saturday. And that is number 5. So let's do that number 5. If I do here number 5, you will see that it will be overlapping. Alright, sorry, that is index 5. Oh, sorry, this should not be like that. That should be number 5 as well, I think. So that's correct. And this one should be number 5. Save, there we are. And you can see here we get this issue. It overlaps because this one is higher. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that if we have the data set, it should be on the highest data set or bar and not on the first bar or the second bar. It must be depending on if it's higher, yes or no. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use a very simple function, and that's what I was referring to by making it dry. You will notice that I'm going to use redundancy a lot here, and later on you can convert this into a nice object on your own. So let's start with that. I'm going to say constant, and what I want to do is I want to say this value will be up or down, or it must be always on the highest. So what I'm going to focus here on is I'm going to say here the data set array. That will be my constant, and what I'm going to do here is basically I'm going to use here a map array method. So to do this, I'm going to use this data here, but this data is a reference to here above. So what I want to do is I want to go here from data directly into the data sets, and then we have this map array method which will allow us to loop through both arrays. And all I want to do is I want to compare which one is higher. Is this higher or this one? And once we see which one is higher, it will push that value into the array, or basically add that value into the array. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to say data.data sets index0.data.map. Oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I guess what we need to do here is, oh well, I guess we can do this. That's no problem. So we're going to say data.map. And then in here, what I'm going to say here is the data point and an index. And what I really want to do is just only one thing here. We're going to put in here a function error expression, and just all we want to do is an if statement where we just check which one is higher. So I'm going to say if this data point, which is the shorthand of basically this data here, if this one is larger than, and we're going to grab here this, put that in here, but I'm going to say then dataset number 1, because you can see this is dataset 0, which is the shorthand of this data point. And then here, I'm just going to say here the index, because that's why we have this index here, so it will loop through this. And if that is the case, what I want to do is I want to say the winner is, or let's return the value of 1, which is the winner, or 0, because index 0 beats or is higher compared to index number or dataset number 1. And else, what I want to do here, we will return number 1. And I'm going to leave this here, so that will mean maybe later on you say, well, hold on, what about this if it's equal? That is correct. If it's equal, it would not matter if it's going to be on one or the other. Yes, that's number 1. So if I save this, refresh, nothing happens here. But if I if I grab this, grab that, console log, put that in there, save, refresh, open the developer tab. You can see here we get the array, and you can see here which one is the winner. And let me just do like that, and you can see here, let's zoom in this a bit. There we are. You can see 0, 0, 0, and then 1, which is correct 1, and here 1 again because it's equal, and then 0, and then 1, and 1. Alright, so this truly recognizes it. So I can use this here, and then specifically because it's an array, so specifically for this, I'm going to say here, and then put in here the index. And I realize here we still have to do a loop here to loop through this as well. I guess what I'm going to do here then is we can just leave this for now, or well, I realize that I'm getting ahead of myself here. So let me just put the index here, that's fine. Now what I want to do here now is then let's see here, we should do another array here first. Alright, so I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, sorry about this. I was not expecting that. If I save, refresh, we just leave this for now. Because what are we missing here more is, besides this, I want to grab the exact value. And that value is necessary for us because we want to then, I guess we want to use that value. Well, to use that value to display here. So I guess it doesn't matter so much. So let's make that one for now then. Or I'll just leave it. Well, I'll just leave it for now, and later on we'll just figure that one out. Sorry about that. I should be better prepared. I'm getting confused. Anyway, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do here dot map, and sorry, not map, but for each. I'm going to loop through all these values, and probably later on we can change this value. And what I'm going to do here is this for each value. I will say here value comma index. So for every value we have, and we have 7 items in here, we're going to loop through that, and we also have the index, which is very important for us. Function arrow expression, and then I'm going to I have here the save. Let's put the save here above. Next, I'm going to cut this all and put that between there. Once we did that, proper indentation. And now what I want to do is with this index here, because that was what I was really struggling with. We have this here, this dataset array. And we have here now the index, so we can just grab this index, put that in here. We have this value here, that's a reference to this as well, but I want to later on change this. So don't use this value for now here. Probably later on, I guess, for the text here or something like that, what I will be adjusting. So if I save this now, refresh. Alright, so we have this. Now, what I need to do here is, for this, I'm going to say also index. If I save that, there we are, we get this now. Interesting. And then here we have the data. I guess this should be indexed as well. Alright, that looks absolutely phenomenal. So this starts to work now, and it's nicely in the center. So what I want to do next is putting in the, well, what we want to do basically is to put in the differences in here. And I guess we could even change this here or leave this already changed, but it doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do now, constant, and then let's call this our difference array or diff array. And the reason why is what I want to show here is the difference between these two here. I want to deduct the value of 80 minus 9, and then we will say if it will be a declining or increasing value, and that will be shown here. That's the core purpose of this, and that was the question. So what I'm going to do here, diff array equals, let's say here data dot data sets index 0. Then I'm going to say here dot data dot map. So as I said earlier, we're going to use this quite redundant structuring, but it doesn't matter for now. So then I'm going to say here for every data point comma index, I want to have both of these, or at least maybe we might need them all, but not sure. Then what I want to do is I want to say all I want to do is return basically the value of the data point, which is 0, or sorry, not 0, but index 0, but data here, minus, because this is data set 0, we're going to do this minus that, and whatever is left, that will be the value, minus this index 1 here index. So once we did this, we have this diff array, we can put that in here and save and refresh. And as you can see here now, we get the values, or specifically the different values that we have here, and we have even the 0. So that's an interesting one. So let's grab this, and this one I want to put in here. Then I can put this in here nicely. If I save this, refresh, we get this. Alright, we get this, but probably this is too much, and the reason why is because we forgot to put in here the value, because the value refers to this here. Now, after our change, remember that. Save, refresh. Now we get this here. So that starts to look slightly better, and we get the differences here. And what I want to do eventually, because you can see these are negative, this is 0, and this is basically a decline, but this is a negative value, and here 0, and then here this is a decline here. I guess maybe we should just change that one like that. I'm going to say here minus that. If I do this, probably it looks slightly better. That looks slightly better. You can see here we are declining in comparison with the red bar. So that's looks more logical. Alright, we've done this now. This is done. Final item here is I want to put in just a icon that shows us as well a arrow pointing down or an arrow pointing up, or if it's equal, we're going to just put in a equal sign, or like some, it's like equal, something like that. So what we're going to do now is new item here, and this is the most advanced part here, of course, is to put in the FontAwesome item that we have here. So I assume you already have this, and I'm going to grab this here. And what we're going to do here, you can see here, oh, I'll be needing that, but we can just put in this. You can see here the FontAwesome, and what we need to have is the font family that is being described or referred to here in the font family. This is very important because this information is for us necessary. If you do FontAwesome 5 or 6, you have to check the font family because they have multiples in one, and sometimes it doesn't always work very well. Anyway, so that's why I'm using 4.7. That works fine. So now what I'm going to do here is we have here this font. Then what I want to do here as well is enter, and we have this. We're going to keep that one, but then I want to say here, you can copy this, put that in there. We're going to put it bold, but now we're going to say FontAwesome. We put the FontAwesome in here. So once we did that, I guess we can copy all of this, or maybe, well, no need. It will be same anyway. But what we do have to do is we have to grab this, put that in here. Here, I want to put in eventually an icon, and later on we have to loop through the icon above, so don't worry about that. We're going to work on this, but let's put in here an X first, and this is a string value for now. Save, go back here, refresh. Alright, so you can see here the X value is the icon basically. It's now on top of it. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say here, I want to move this a little bit more to the right side, and I guess our number could move a little bit more to the left. So what I'm going to do here for the left side, let's say here minus 6 pixel. And the reason why I do 6 pixel because the font is 12 pixels. So 6 pixels should be fine then. And then I'm going to do here plus 6. Save, refresh. There we are. So now we have this here. But of course you can see the font family is still different and the icon is still not matching. So what I need to do basically is the icon. Let me show you. If you go here, I'm going to use a arrow. And let's say arrow down. If I click on this, you will see here we get this Unicode. That's what we need. And the reason why we are now allowed to use this is because we have defined the FontAwesome family here. So if I do this, this is a string value. You're going to use here \U for Unicode and then paste in this. If we save this now, refresh, you can see we have this here, and you can see the arrows are working nicely. If you did not do this, let's say here we're going to cut this out to say sans serif, you will see we get square blocks because it doesn't recognize the font family. Very important to remember this. So if you have square blocks, that's probably the reason it doesn't recognize it. Anyway, this of course is not what we want. This is hard coded. I want to have this one here intelligently showing if it's going up or down, or if it's equal, a equal sign or some symbol that symbolizes that. So what I'm going to do here, let's create a new constant. I'm going to say here icons array, and this will be also a map. A map method. So we say here, I guess we can just grab here the data, almost all of this, put that in there, and then what we're going to say here is the data point comma index, and exactly the same function arrow expression, put it in here, and then what I want to do here is 3 items. We're going to say an if statement. If this here, or basically the data point, is larger than this value here, the index. If this is true, I want the arrow pointing, if the data point, which is the starting index 0, is bigger than index 1, I want the arrow point down. That's it. Alright, so we're going to say here return, and what we want to return is basically this icon here. Then we're going to say else if, and within here what I want to do is the opposite basically. Say here this, if data point would be smaller than index number 1, which would indicate the grow, then we need to have a new arrow in here. Let's search for that arrow up, click on this. You can see here this Unicode here, there you are, number 62. So I guess you can just put in here, we say return, and then here \, U for Unicode, and there we are. Finally, if, and then we say here else, if it is just equal, so it's not bigger or smaller, in that case what I want to do is I want an equal sign here. Well, there's maybe something like this. I saw another one, I would just use that one as exchange. I think it's exchange, where we're going to say here the arrow is identical. I'm just making up or just grabbing something, but you can use anything you want, of course. So then say here return this slash Unicode. There we are. Save this, grab this array or this icons array. Then we have here this, and all we want to do here is we're going to say this, let's say index. Save, go back here, refresh, and there we are. So now you can see here, if we're going down, -3, going up, equal, going down. Well, let's try something else. Here, if this is 9, let's make this one now number 1, save, refresh, and if this is number 1, it goes up with 8 value points. And there we are. That's basically how we can play around with FontAwesome, putting it in the data labels here. So if you enjoyed this video, and maybe for example we have this one here, but you want to have it in the tooltips as well, so let's enable this one again. Let's save that, refresh. So maybe you want to have it in the tooltips here as well, that you have this nice icon showing here. If you want this, I'm going to recommend you this video here on how to use FontAwesome in Chart.js to put it here in the title, put it in the scale, put it in the tooltip as well.